Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have just scraped past Chelsea by 2-1. It was a hell of an uncomfortable last 10 or 15 minutes in that match, and to be perfectly honest, it wasn't the best performance from Liverpool at any point during the game. I thought we never quite really got out of third gear. I think we were probably lucky to have that 2-0 lead in at half-time, and we rode our luck at quite a few portions during that game, and I think we've done very, very well to come away with the result. And I think any other weekend, I would be a little bit disappointed with the performance, but with it being away at Stamford Bridge, where, as I said in the pre-match video, it's a really, really tough place to go, and to get a result there is always absolutely massive. And obviously with what happened in Europe in midweek and the loss that we sustained and the kind of the iffiness of the performance against Napoli as well, I think the most important thing here was just to get back to winning ways, especially with the result Man City got yesterday. You know, the last thing we need after a huge confidence boosting 8-0 win for them is for them to then tighten the gap on us as well. We need to maintain that 5-point gap for as long as we possibly can, because, you know, in an ideal world, we get to extend it at some point whenever Manchester City do, fingers crossed, drop points between now and the end of the season. So yeah, the actual game itself, not really that great. I thought defensively we were shambolic at times. From set pieces, we were just all over the shop. The set piece defending actually looked like the Liverpool of a couple of years ago. You know, the Liverpool that just couldn't get the ball out the box. The Liverpool that was so susceptible to second balls. And any time the opposition would get a set piece, you'd be absolutely terrified that something awful was going to happen. And we seem to go back to that today. We just didn't seem to know how to clear our lines. Chelsea players had way too much time on the ball in the box. There was so much disorganisation. Players going for the ball when they shouldn't, not going for the ball when they should, and it was just a shambles. And that's what contributed to the stress at the end, because this Liverpool side over the last year or so has been so good with its game management. It's one of the best things about this squad. It certainly was last season, you know, being able to be in positions where we could be winning a game by 1 goal away from home against a good side, and that you would not be worried, you wouldn't be concerned that we'd end up, you know, throwing the game away or anything like that, because we got so good at seeing leads out, and we just didn't seem to see that from Liverpool today. And I don't want to sound like I'm sort of doom-mongering here and saying that this is, you know, the start of some terrible trend and that I'm worried about going forward this season. I am going to put this down as a blip. I'm not going to say that this is the kind of thing we're going to see from now on from Liverpool, even though, like I said, the performance against Napoli was also a little bit iffy. I am just saying, purely looking at the performance today, I think we were pretty poor. And going forward as well, we just never quite seemed to click. The goals we got were pretty fortunate. Both of them are set-piece goals. The first one is just fantastic from Trent Alexander-Arnold. I mean, you could kind of see it coming. As soon as Salah rolls it into the path, you know that Trent is blamming that into the top corner. It's just a phenomenal finish, especially because what I think some people might not have noticed, the keeper's on that side. That's not sort of, you know, completely out of his reach. That's the side that Kepa Arrizabalaga is on, and Trent manages to get enough power and enough placement behind it on a rolling ball as well. It's not a dead ball situation where he's got ages to kind of work out his angles. He's just got to hit it and use, you know, pure instinct to try and find the goal, and he does it absolutely brilliantly. It was out of the Steven Gerrard playbook, and it was brilliant to see, and I think that was good because the game had been a little bit 50-50 up to that point, and it kind of felt like that was something we could kick on from. We could establish dominance from there on, and, you know, an early goal, something we've got plenty of time to build on, and then we just never quite really worked on from there. It went back to being the kind of 50-50 slightly scruffy match it was, and obviously you've got the Chelsea disallowed goal, and I don't understand what they're going on about Sky Sports. They seem to be desperate to make a debate about VAR, and I think at times, yeah, fine, there are problems with the system, and we've seen that as Liverpool fans with the Napoli game and the Newcastle game. But I mean, it's offside, and that can be a binary matter. I know that's something I was talking about after Napoli. You know, some of these things can't be binary. They can't be yes or no decisions. They've got to have an element of subjectivity. Not the case with offside. He's either off or he's on, and he was off. So I don't know what the debate is about there. It's obviously fantastic for Liverpool because it seems to give you that kind of artificial boost. We saw the same thing with Leicester against Spurs yesterday, where they got that extra boost because Spurs scored a goal that was then disallowed, and then Leicester go up the other end and get an equaliser. That kind of 2-goal swing that the VAR nonsense seems to give you is absolutely fantastic, and Liverpool managed to ride that wave in this game because I think that certainly helped us see out the first half. I think it was that double deflation for Chelsea. That second goal, it was just such a simple goal for Liverpool to score. I felt a bit silly when I was watching it with my housemates because as the cross was switched to Andrew Robertson, I was like, come on, we need an in-swinging cross here because we love out-swinging crosses at Liverpool, and I don't quite know why, because I think in-swingers are always better because you only need to get a tiny bit on it, and and they do cause a little bit more chaos, whereas outswingers actually seem to require a little bit more power and placement from the defender, from the attacker even, and I think they're so much easier to defend because the momentum is already taking it away from goal. But Chelsea just didn't bother defending it. I know that it was a great run for Firmino, and we've got to give him credit for that. It was clearly something that the team had worked from, and it's a fantastic header from him. It's the kind of thing we say we don't see often from Roberto Firmino, but he's actually quite effective in the air. For a player who many people say is like a false nine and more of a creator and more there to facilitate the players around him, when it comes to crosses into the box, when he's in that central position, he's pretty effective. There's plenty of times we've seen him score that goal against Arsenal a couple years ago, against Spurs at Anfield last season as well. He's good at it, and he's a lot better in the air than I think people give him credit for. So that was a really good goal, albeit some really shoddy defending from Chelsea. And like I said, that kind of double blow for them really helped us out because it left them deflated, and I think that's why they didn't really have any other go for the rest of the first half. And also they had their injury problems as well. Obviously Emerson going off, and who was the other one who went off? It's not going to come to my mind, but someone else went off. It was the defender, Christensen. He went off, and that seemed to set them off a little bit, and I think they were more concerned about just letting the defence settle in a little bit rather than trying to go forward and get a goal back before half-time. And that probably helped us because I think if Chelsea had got a goal before half-time, it would have been a totally different game. God knows what would have happened in that second half. I mean, when the second half actually starts, for about 20-25 minutes, it was a bit boring, to be honest, because Liverpool actually dominated the ball for that period. It reminded me of the game against Napoli in midweek where we got to the 70-minute mark and suddenly Liverpool realised if you just keep the ball for a bit, even if you're not playing like amazing passes, if you're not creating beautiful flowing attacking moves by catching the opposition unawares with counter-attacks, if you just pass it round the back a little bit, which I know we can be critical of teams for doing, then actually that's sometimes the best thing you can possibly do, and that helped us get through that spell of the second half. And then suddenly Kante just turns Fabinho, and it's a shame because if I'm being honest, I probably would have said Fabinho was my man of the match up to that point. I thought he was one of our best players. Like I said, I thought this was a poor performance in Liverpool today, so it's quite hard to pick out a man of the match. I thought defensively we were shoddy. Attack-wise, it never quite clicked. The midfield never really got a hold on the game. I thought Fabinho up to that point was probably our best player, and then he just gets completely turned by Kante. And I think after that, he never seemed to stamp the authority that we really needed. He's been such a key figure in terms of game management for Liverpool. And I know he does make that really smart foul towards the end with about 10 minutes left where Chelsea try and build a counter-attack and he just takes down their man before he can even get out of their own defensive third. And that was a great move, and I'm so thankful he did that because, again, Lord knows what would have possibly happened if he hadn't. But I thought we really needed someone to just bring in a bit of authority, use this idea of experience that's almost this invisible force that people think footballers have, where an experienced footballer can suddenly just control a match with their mind. And sometimes that is the thing. Sometimes experienced heads like Milner can come in and change it. But I thought Milner never really got a foothold in the game. Adam Lallana was just chasing shadows for the last 10 minutes. And I think once that Chelsea goal went in, it just became the most stressful experience of your life. And I've got to say, thank you to Adrian San Miguel, who is a completely different player after the international break. Makes that massive save with his feet from Marcos Alonso with that free kick that evades our entire defence. None of them see Marcos Alonso there. It might have been offside. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't really paying attention because I was literally, and I'm not joking here, watching the game from behind a cushion. I had it pulled up like that and I was peering my eyes through it. That's how stressed I was. That's what this kind of title race is doing to us fans. And it doesn't help that we did it already last season and we came away with nothing, and we're now terrified of doing that again. It was just so tense that I could barely even process what was going on. I was beyond analysing the game by that point. I don't think any Liverpool fan was really paying attention to, the nuances of the power dynamics between the midfields and stuff like that. It was just all about, please, Liverpool, for the love of God, see this one out. And I think this was one where it wasn't down to our game management. It wasn't down to, intelligent play from the midfield or the defence being tightly packed or anything like that. That's not what got us through this game. If I'm being perfectly honest, what got us through this game was blind luck, because Chelsea had their chances. Mason Mount has that chance really late on in the game that he completely skies, that really, I think a more experienced player would have put away. Batshuayi has that header where Adrian's just completely flat-footed. If that's going into the bottom corner, there's no way in hell he's getting to that because he just plants his feet and he cannot make the dive to the side. He looked panicked. I was panicked. I definitely looked panicked. Thankfully, it drifted wide. And I think something I've said about Chelsea a couple times already so far this season, because of course we played them in the Super Cup this as well already, is that while they do play good attacking football, it just feels like the finishing isn't there. And I feel like that's because, you know, Giroud isn't playing for them. Obviously he's there, but he doesn't really start that many games. They're missing Eden Hazard now, and the other players just don't seem to be up to the challenge of when they get presented with one gilt-edged chance, putting it away when they absolutely have to. And I think we absolutely reap the rewards of that today, because if we'd come up against them and they'd had Hazard in their ranks, or Giroud, or even Higuain, or anyone like that, then I would have 100% backed them to get an equaliser in those closing stages, because like I said, we just rode our luck. We were all over the shop defensively, and I'm just so thankful we managed to get away with it, essentially. And if we're being honest, and I don't want to talk about the title race too much because it is so early and it's just going to kill us with stress if we talk about it too much, but it is that whole thing about sign of champions, winning when you play poorly. And if you can win when you play poorly, away at Stamford Bridge, one of the toughest grounds you can go to in the UK, then that is one of the strongest possible signs of a team that can go all the way and win the Premier League titles. So, as I said, we're not going to talk about that too much because it is very, very early doors, but that is at least one positive sign you can take away from this game, is that if we are being honest, Liverpool really, really got away with it. But as I said right at the top of the video, I don't think this is a sign of things to come. I think this is just, you know, a particularly tough match. Obviously, the game against Napoli was difficult as well. I think in an ideal world, we could have rested a few more players, and that's exactly what we're going to do, I think, against MK Dons on Wednesday night. The players are all going to get a rest. Hopefully they come back fresh for the game against Sheffield United next weekend, and, you know, I'd expect us to win that no matter what happens, but hopefully it is a little bit more comfortable, because if I'm being honest, anyone who's got any relation to those Liverpool players, if you're watching this right now, I can't take this. I can't take this between now and the end of the season, because it is just too much. But yeah, if I was going to give out a Man of the Match award, you know what? I'm probably going to give it to Adrian, because I mentioned his save from Marcos Alonso, but I thought apart from that as well, he was so calm under pressure. You could see Chelsea were trying to close him down. They were trying to cause problems. They were trying to essentially force the same kind of situation that Southampton got a goal from already this season. But he dealt with it so well, and it's so clear, and I mentioned it after the Napoli game as well, that time he's had over the international break working with the coaching staff has worked wonders. He just looks like a completely different goalkeeper. As I said, there's much more understanding between him and the back line now as well. They have the confidence to pass back to him, and some of the balls he was playing out from the back, it was like he was getting put under pressure and the ball was getting played to him, and he didn't just boot it, he was like dinking it over Chelsea attackers to our defenders. And that's such an important skill to have. It's something that people criticised Adrian for at the start of his Liverpool career, saying he was putting himself under too much pressure, but it gradually became clear that that was part of his playing style, and that's part of our playing style as well. And it's such a positive sign that Adrian is capable of integrating himself into that. It was always going to take a little bit of time, because he arrived so late and he was forced into a situation I don't think anyone ever expected to happen, of him becoming essentially our first choice goalkeeper for the start of the season. And he's dealt with it so incredibly well, and it's a great sign that he's no longer going to be a weakness, and if anything, might actually be a positive figure for Liverpool, because like I said, the defence looked shaky today, but he, on the whole, looked like he could deal with pretty much everything that was thrown at him, and that's what you want out of your goalkeeper. You need them to be the last line of defence. When everything else goes wrong, you can still rely on him. And I'm not going to, you know, stick my neck out and say that I think he's going to challenge Alisson for that goalkeeping place, although I will feel very bad for him when Alisson comes back in and he's probably immediately stripped of his role as the man between the sticks for Liverpool, because he has performed admirably for us, and I now feel so much more confident that if we ever have any more problems with the goalkeeper, we can rely on Adrian to step in and do the business for us. So you know what? If I'm going to give out a man of the match, I'm going to give it to Adrian San Miguel, because everyone else was a little bit naff, if we're being honest. But that is not what matters. What matters is that Liverpool got the 3 points. What matters is that Liverpool went to a really tough ground, their toughest game so far this season, with all the eyes on them, Man City desperate, on their knees, praying for us to drop points for the first time this season, and we did not blink. We come away with the 3 points. We are still 5 points clear at the top of the table, and we've negotiated that first big hurdle of the Premier League season. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. As always, you know what to do. Hit that like button down there if you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with the pre-match content for the game against MK Dons. Until then, bye for now.